Don't forget, ko-fi.com/stopwritingalone is a real simple way to show your support for what's going on here week after week. Hi, everyone. This is Nicole Rivera, and this is the Stop Writing Alone podcast for writers who are looking for their writing community. I know you want to find readers for your work, but I think your first step is to connect with other writers. That's what we're going to do here in the Stop Writing Alone podcast. We'll do writing prompts and other writing group activities, discover online writing communities, learn how to find local writing groups, or how to make your own. Join us as we explore, learn, and write. Hi, everyone. This is Nicole Rivera, and you're listening to the Stop Writing Alone podcast. There's been a lot going on this week in the Stop Writing Alone community. I've been showing up every single day for what I've been calling Camp Light, which is basically a model of what we've been doing in the Happy Campers Club, what we did back in April and what we're going to do again in June. So the week sort of got away from me, and all of a sudden I realized I was stumbling upon my podcast day, and I forgot to settle on an interview that I had planned for this week. So that'll be coming to you next week. But as I got closer and realized that wasn't happening, I said, well, what the heck am I going to talk about this week on the Stop Writing Alone podcast? And I said, I've got this whole community of writers, and I don't know what it is that they need to hear right now. So if you're in the Facebook group, if you follow me on Instagram or even on Twitter, you saw that I asked the question this week, what is your biggest writing or writing life question right now? And you may have thought that I was being a concerned community leader, and I was. But really, there was a selfish motivation there. I was looking for content for this week's episode. And the fantastic thing is that the people of the Stop Writing Alone community delivered. So I have 5-6 questions here that I am going to answer for you today. And I think they're all questions that can apply to us at different times of our own writing journey. So I'm going to dive right in. And the first question that I got was from one of my writing friends right here in Staten Island, Nancy. And she said, which work in progress do I concentrate on? That thing that is probably going to be pretty easy to publish. It's a cozy mystery that she's working on. Or the thing that's fun, which was a sci-fi story that she's working on. So what's the right answer here? We all know the old adage, like, don't write to the market. Don't write to what's going to sell. Don't follow trends. Write your story and then find a place to sell it. But I also know Nancy, and I know that she's really good at writing to a market if she needs to, and following up on deadlines and doing things and still making the time for the stories that she loves. So I told her all this, And she said, yeah, but right now I'm struggling to write in those same rhythms that I normally do. And I thought that was really interesting, because I feel like so many people are finding that right now. And for some people, it's a positive swing. Some people are writing so much more. They're becoming more prolific. They're writing differently and they're writing more quickly. But other people are struggling to find that groove that they were in before. So as soon as she said that, which was, if this doesn't prove that this is shifting everybody creatively, I don't know what does. Nancy always delivers. So if she's struggling, I know a lot of people out there are struggling. So then the easy answer there is back to the old adage. Write that thing that you are enjoying the crap out of. Write whatever is going to flow most easily right now. And take that ride, because that'll be your passion project. That'll get you through this time. And chances are, I always find that when I give myself the space and time to write the thing that I'm really loving, when I wrap it up, I'm in a so much better space that I can kind of attack any old project afterwards. So I hope that helped her. I haven't heard back yet because, now I'm recording before I'm getting responses from everyone. But I'm wondering how you guys are doing out there with your writing. Are you struggling with like what to write? Are you finding, like Nancy, that you're not writing in the same ways that you did before? Or is that the one thing? I know there's some people out there that that's the one thing that they have been able to stick to, because for so many of us, writing is an outlet. So it's like, I will stick to my writing and I will make sure that I show up for it. But just a curiosity. And the next question that I got cracked me up from my friend Jess. She says, what should my next blog post be about? And I literally laughed out loud when I read this because it felt so meta. I was like, well, I almost wanted to say, well, Jess, didn't you realize that that's what this post was for? Because I couldn't think of what content to write. So, and this is in one way the answer to the question. If you are a content creator, if you have a blog like Jess, if you have a podcast like I do, a YouTube channel, if you're even just trying to think about content to write for your social media or your website, and you get tapped out, I mean, this just keeps happening. If you have to keep showing up and showing up, you say, well, what the heck am I going to write about? There's two things. One is what I'm demonstrating here in this podcast, and that is, if you have a following, if you have a community, ask the community, what do they want? What do they need? What do they need to hear right now? What do they need to read right now? You forget the areas of expertise you have, the answers that you hold for other people, because they are your normal and they are your common knowledge. The other thing is, and again, this is because I know Jess, and I know what she's, where she's at right now. She is, and this is Jessica Hauser. She has a Twitter chat too on Wednesday nights. It's called a Writer's Life Chat. And she is like an expert. She's always got an awesome writer's notebook. So I was like, I know you probably blogged about the writer's notebook over and over again, but like maybe take it in a different direction. Like, how do you pick the perfect notebook to be a writer's notebook? So that's another thing. If there's something that you are an expert at, take it from a different angle. Maybe you wrote about how to create a writer's notebook, but not what do you put in a writer's notebook? Or like I said, how do you pick out the writer's notebook? So on and so forth. But definitely try to connect with the people you are writing for or creating for to find out what it is that they need, and deliver on that. And then when all else fails, that there's always writing prompts. And if you ever need a writing prompt, there are, endless, just Google it, right? Google writing prompt. Here's a shameless promo here for the NV Rivera YouTube channel, where I share writing prompt every single Friday. And we are in week 22 of the year, so by this Friday there will be 22 options for you. But yeah, there's writing prompts all over the place, so that's always an option. But I love that Jess asked that, because I love doing that too. Either ask the community or sometimes just ask somebody, what would you like to hear? Awesome, thank you. Takes away a little decision fatigue on my part. The next question or comment that I got was from Anna. She's new to the Stop Writing Alone community. And she said, I need a book to take my breath away and light my writing on fire. Well, if there was one thing that I completely distracted myself with this week when I should have been doing other things like scheduling the interview I was supposed to schedule this week, it was reading. I am currently in 3 different book clubs. The Creative Life Scholars Book Club, which I've told you guys about a number of times. That's Sam Kimberly's book club. And we're reading You Are a Badass with Money by Jen Sincero. Then I'm in the Rich Lit Society with Sean Croxton, who is the podcast host of Quote of the Day podcast. And we just finished this Wednesday The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. And we are starting in June the 4 Agreements, which I can't wait. And in my local book club, we are reading the Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires, which is just so much fun. And then I just started reading Harry Potter to my son, and I picked up the prequel to the Hunger Games because I adored the Hunger Games series when it first came out. So I'm reading all over the place. So those are all the suggestions I gave. But the interesting thing that I thought that Anna asked was like, she wanted the book that lights her writing on fire. And I just shot out all these books at her because that second bit is such a hard question to answer. I never know which book or story is going to meet me at the place that I need it. And to that end, in today's, Wednesday's coffee hour support group for the Happy Campers Light series that we're doing in Stop Writing Alone, Jackie Dana mentioned that she's been working on her novel. It's a sequel to her book that's already published. And she was sort of like, she's in this bog with the conclusion. And she was watching Homeland, the Showtime show, right? Is it Showtime? I might have the wrong cable network, but the show with Claire Danes. And she just started. She had never seen it before. And she said there was a scene that happened in one of the early episodes, might have even been the first episode, that broke open this issue that she was having. I believe it was with her protagonist. And that's the thing, right? All story serves us at different ways, at different times. And we broke off into this whole discussion in our Zoom call today about personality traits and personality tests and how we can dive deep into character development. And we never know what thing it's going to be. If it's going to be the 4, that was it too. Jackie had started reading the 4 Agreements. And she said something that she read in that book triggered another realization about another character. So it's like if it's a self-help book, it might trigger something about a character's, inner psyche. If it's a fiction book or story like Homeland, there might just be a solution to some sort of conflict. Even if it's a story that's nothing like the thing you're writing it yourself, it could apply to your characters. So I just list all the things that I'm reading. Oh, and there's one more that I listed for Anna, and I will share with you. I found out right before Anna had mentioned that J.K. Rowling just released a brand new book online. Now I'm going to forget the name of it. It's called like the Ichabod. And she's releasing it chapter by chapter through July 21st on the website. So I'll put that link in the show notes if there are any J.K. Rowling fans out there. I figured since I'm reading Harry Potter to my son, I should check that one out as well. So that was a great question. Anna had some other questions also about how to get a more engaged writing group. And I had actually spoken to her about this previous. One of the things that she was struggling with, which is kind of happening all over the place right now, is with these virtual calls that we're having. Sometimes our purpose is getting lost, that we're coming to the meeting and people are talking about the news of the day, politics, whatever. And there is a need for that. People need to vent about the things that are invading on their own, personal psyches. But if you only meet, let's say, once a week or once a month with your writing group, and then that dominates the conversation, then that is an issue. It's part of the reason why in the Happy Campers Club, I try to diversify the meetings, and I try to make sure that that we have that support group meeting in the middle of the week, because for me, that middle of the week meeting is the one that's kind of like a free-for-all of like, I need support, I need help in whatever that's blocking me. And sometimes that is the news of the day and, just normal life stuff that's getting in my way. And sometimes it is an actual writing thing, but that's a more fluid meeting. And, the members know, like we can get into any sort of conversation in that meeting, and that expectation is there. But if you show up on a Tuesday when we're doing a write-in, well, you got to come ready to write. That's what we're going to do on Tuesdays. And if you come on a Monday meeting where we're doing goal setting, I'm going to keep pulling you back. I'm going to keep redirecting you back to talking about goal setting. So that was really my advice to her, is that you just have to start defining the meetings, or, offering up more stringent meetings that have that we are here to write today purpose, and I'll talk to you later if you need to talk about anything else type situation. And then I love that Anna mentioned that one of the things is that she's missing her commute, the train, and the music that she used to listen to that inspires her. I personally have found that I'm missing the rhythm of when I listen to my podcast. That used to be like a part of my day. I guess maybe it must have been like after my son went off to school, and I would go for a walk and I would listen to an episode here or there of all the different podcasts I listen to. Since that rhythm's not happening anymore, since he's not getting on a bus and I'm not going off on a walk by myself, I'm not plugging in, I'm not listening to things. And it's true, all of these things that we take for granted in our routines are getting lost at this time, but they'll be back. And I think it's important that when we recognize that something like that is missing, we try to find a way to bring it back in. It's almost like you have to make the time for those things, especially if you find that it's something that has served you well and inspired you to write. And if you're finding you need that kind of inspiration, that's something that's important, that needs to be squeezed back in, whichever way. And for those of you who are missing your commutes, since I've been working from home for a while now, this past year I had started a morning commute for myself. I think I mentioned it on the podcast before, where I literally, it's that walk. After my son would go off to school, I would plug in my headphones into my phone. I'd just go for a walk of about a mile and a half. We have a really nice path around the neighborhood, and it was like a loop. I would walk and come back to my house and feel like I walked to work. That was my commute. So you can do that now, even though, even if your neighborhood isn't, fully open yet. Put your mask on and commute. One of my favorite questions that came out of this came from Jennifer. And it was, I'm just learning to get started. Where do I go? And poor Jennifer, the first thing I said to her was a wise ass remark. I said, well, if you want to get started and the thing that you want to do is write, the first place you should go is to a blank page and just start writing. And it was part tongue-in-cheek, part me, like I said, being a wise ass, but it was also partially true, because I feel like oftentimes writers need permission, beginning writers, to do that, to just show up and write, particularly coming from our, everybody has a diploma or credentials or some sort of certification in order to truly be a thing. Sometimes when you think about being a writer, if you don't have that, you say, well, maybe I shouldn't sit down to the blank page yet until I get the permission to do so. So that was my first response. And then, Jennifer had said, yeah, that's the thing. I'm kind of like, I feel like bogged down by the grammar and the spelling and all of those sorts of situations. And I had offered her up a list of books that I had read when I first started my writing journey that not only inspired me to find those blank pages to show up to, but also gave me all the permission in the world to show up exactly as I was. And that was Bird by Bird by Anne Lamott, Writing Down the Bones by Natalie Goldberg, and On Writing by Stephen King. On Writing by Stephen King is an interesting one because that's actually the first book I ever read about the writing process. And it was when I initially, quote unquote, read it, it was an audio through an audiobook. So it was very intimidating to listen to this man's story and hear about his 6-hour writing days while at the time I was still a full-time high school teacher. And I was like, okay, I guess I can be a writer when I retire or only in the summers if I ever stop working through the summer. It just didn't feel like I could fit writing in, even though he had that, even Stephen King spoke about being an English teacher and writing at the time, and that's when he wrote Carrie. It seemed like a lot, but so many wonderful tips there, so much inspiration. Always love that book, and I think many people do have that on their list of recommendations about the writing life. But when we talk about this issue of feeling ill-equipped to show up to the page for whatever way our words come out initially, there is no greater permission slip than Bird by Bird. For it is within this book that Anne Lamott discusses the shitty first draft. And when I first read that, I was like, wait, what? This woman here who's writing so nicely in this entire book is talking to me about how her first draft is something that she considers shitty. It's really just full of all of the realities of writing, all of the beautiful spaces in our ordinary world where we can find our inspiration. And that is also what Natalie Goldberg is so good at providing in Writing Down the Bones. So those are three that I just always think of as kind of like the first go-to books. So that's what I told Jennifer, and I think she said she had already had them in her Amazon cart by the time she had replied to me. So I cannot wait to hear what she thinks about those. But yeah, if you haven't read those, I would highly recommend them. If you have read them, what did you think? And if you have any other recommendations of where someone should go when they're first getting started for that kind of inspiration, permission, let me know. Let us know either in the Facebook group or Instagram or calling our Stop Writing Alone hotline. But those are my faves. But we're not done yet. Last two questions that I got for my request came from the Don't Keep Your Day Job community, because I posted my question over there as well. And one member asked, why don't I like publishing on WordPress? I find it awkward. This was another one of those questions that made me laugh out loud, because my original blogs that I wrote many, many years ago were all on Blogger, which is, I believe, owned by Google now. And back in that time, everyone would say, if you really want traffic, you really want to be like taken seriously as a blogger, you should have a WordPress blog. And I never got one at the time. But when I came like back to this world of online content creation and things, I was like, well, now this is serious. I'm going to get a WordPress blog. And that's where Stop Writing Alone is. And I find it awkward. I also don't really love writing on there. I do believe I'm missing something basic. And so I can't really answer why there's that awkwardness, but I can empathize with it. And I do feel like I need some sort of training in whatever is the thing that I'm missing. So that was a great question, and one that I felt quite deeply. The last question that I got, which was from the Don't Keep Your Day Job community, was one that I love, and I'm sure once I read it, you'll say, oh yeah, here we go. Teacher Nicole is back. Because Karen asked, what would you, the adult writer, tell children about writing? And when I read it at first, I was like, wow, that's really interesting, because I don't really deal with children in the Stop Writing Alone community. And on the flip side, with my son, who's 6 now, I don't really deal with him when it comes to writing, except for his writing homework, which is ironically an enormous fight almost all the time. Every time I'm like, why writing? Why is this the thing? That's a struggle. But here's the thing that I would say to children about writing, and it is the same thing that I would say, that I do say to adults about writing. Write whatever you want to write first. And don't worry about your spelling. Don't worry about your grammar. Don't worry about your punctuation. Just write. And if you need to tell a story out loud first, or draw a story in pictures first, then do that. Do it whatever way is going to get your complete story out. And I say this where yesterday, this was not an assignment. My son just wanted to start drawing, and he drew a bee, and he drew another bee, and he said, these bees are brothers. And he started to tell me a story, and he just kept drawing and drawing, and this story got so intricate, but the beautiful little details that he came up with on the fly, like that the bee's refrigerator was also hexagons because they were inside the hive, and the bees were trying to make honey, and it was such a sweet little story. And I loved that he just kept drawing. Didn't have to worry about the words and the sentences and this and that. He could tell me. So I think as I tell many new writers that need the permission to be messy in their first draft, I would say the same for children. Although I think children may need to be less convinced than adults, because I do believe it is, or was, our schooling that sort of got us into that perfectionist mode in the first place. So perhaps getting to kids before that happens might be a good thing. So, so that was my last question. What I would love is that if you guys have any answers to these questions, if you would call in on the Stop Writing Alone hotline. It's 646-907-9607. Or head on over to Stop Writing Alone with Nicole Rivera, the Facebook group, and you can see the conversation that we had beneath the question on, I believe it was Tuesday night of this week. And enter your own answers or your own questions right there, and you can get into this wonderful conversation. But that's it for me this week. I do want to invite you, if you are listening to this episode early enough, to the revision and reading chat that we will be having in the Stop Writing Alone group. It's actually a Zoom call, so if you're subscribed to the Stop Writing Alone email list. You should have received that email already with the invitation. But if you have not, the links are being shared in the Facebook group and on the Facebook page as well. And on Friday, there will be a writing prompt party, also a Zoom call, live Zoom call. You can come in and you can write along with us and share your story at the end of it. These are a lot of fun. And usually stick to about an hour. So just come on over and see what it's all about. And the reason that I'm doing this all week with you is because Monday, June 1st, will begin the second session of the Happy Campers Club, which is a 1-month-long membership community where we commit to 5 days a week of live calls. Mondays are about goal setting. Tuesdays are a number of write-ins for you. It's all about writing on Tuesday. Wednesdays are a support group. Thursdays are, as I said, revision and reading. And Fridays are our writing prompt parties. I can't say enough about the community that has already come to the Happy Campers Club and that will be returning in June. As I said in the email that I wrote about Thursday's event, the great joy and pride that I have surrounding this community is that it is a community where writers can benefit and grow as writers. And the only requirement is that they show up as themselves. If you show up and be you, that's it. I am here to serve you where you're at and help you wherever you are in your writer's journey, wherever you need to go, and be there for you every step of the way. And the people that have come everybody's on a completely different writing journey. We've just got so much diversity in here. And the mutual respect that everybody has for each other and the ability to support one another, even when we're writing in various genres or with different types of long-term and short-term goals, it's really quite wonderful. It's a safe space. It's a fun space. I'm so grateful for it. And again, as I said in the email, I want to say yes for you. I want to say that you deserve this and you should be there, but it's not my place. So the decision's on you. And if you need some time or some convincing, I would say show up to the last 2 free events, this Thursday, this Friday. You can get to meet some of the people that are already there and see if it's something that's worth your time and money. And I think... I know personally, but I know it is, but I think you will see that it is too. And after a couple of years of investing in myself, which has translated into investing in communities of people that serve me well, it is one thing that I hope for all of you. And if it's the Happy Campers Club, that's awesome for you and me. If it's not, I hope you find the group that serves you best and you start investing in yourself right away. Until I see you next time, whether it's here on the podcast or it's in the Happy Campers Club or it's over at YouTube and V Rivera on Fridays for our writing prompts, I hope you're inspired to write. I hope you are embracing whatever life is bringing you right now, and you are in a safe space, healthy, happy, and writing. I'll see you next week. Thank you, as always, for listening. Before you go, don't forget to subscribe to the Stop Writing Alone podcast wherever you're listening to this episode today. Then connect with us on Facebook at Stop Writing Alone Facebook page or in the Stop Writing Alone with Nicole Rivera Facebook group. Check Instagram or Twitter, where I'm at NV_Rivera, to find links to our email newsletter. Happy writing. See you next week.